Welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm glad you're with us. Today we're looking at a mid-80s Suzuki Intruder. Now, it's worth noting that Suzuki and Kawasaki showed up a little bit late to the V-twin cruiser market. Yamaha led the charge in '81 with the Virago. Honda jumped in there in '83 with the Shadow, and then these guys and Kawasaki jumped in around '85. Maybe they were perfecting the design. I'm sure they took Shadows and Viragos home, ripped them apart, and looked at them and made sure they knew what they were doing, getting into this V-twin cruiser line. The big four all needed something to compete with Harley and the other V-twin bikes. Not that I know of any, but it's worth saying, here's a disclaimer, when I first shot this video, I did all my research on Kawasaki Vulcans and got into editing. I thought, this is wrong. This right here is the Suzuki Intruder. Very good looking bike, and all these models ran for like 20 years unchanged. So when you got something that's working, go ahead and run with it. A lot of you guys, if you started out on a cruiser, I'm willing to bet it was one of these 80s shaft drive motorcycles. I do have notes. My new notes, because the original notes were for a Vulcan, and I apologize to the purists, but we're going to go with my revised notes here and tell you a little bit about specs on the Intruder 700. So this is either an 85 or 86, and I'll show you later in the video why I'm not exactly sure. But specs on this guy: it is a single overhead cam, 4 valves per cylinder. Now, this engine, let's see if I can get you a good shot of that. This engine is a 45-degree V-twin. What I have figured out is, and self-adjusting top end there. So self-adjusting valves, so you don't have to do a valve job on this bike. Yeah, well, the Honda Shadow you don't. I think this is the same way. So you don't have to do a valve adjustment. They're hydraulic adjusting valves. 45 degree, that follows the Shadow. The Vulcan, because I did do research on that, is a 55 degree. So whether that matters for you, I don't know. But sorry for later in the video. I might mention that and it was wrong. But I'll try and fix that. But if it's there, sorry. 108, I've seen some say 111 miles per hour top speed. If you're up there on a cruiser like this, you're probably going fast enough. 55 horsepower. 41 and about 0.31 foot-pounds of torque. And that 55 horsepower is coming in at 7,500 RPMs. Now, you don't have a tack on this bike, so I guess you're just gonna have to find it yourself. The weight on this motorcycle, pretty light. It's actually just over 450 pounds. And you're running two 34mm carbs, Mikuni constant velocity carburetors. Seat height on this, if we had a seat, is about 27 inches. So very low, very light motorcycle. I mean, that sounds good to me. And then gas tank, again, if there was one left, we would be looking at about a 3.2 gallon tank. A bit smaller than some of the other ones, but notable just the same. Front tire, 190/19. That is what we have on here. Get you a look at that spoked wheel. I have not seen that on the other bikes of this era. They were running cast alloys. And then the rear tire is 140/90/15. So you sit a little lower in the rear, bigger front tire, nice rake. Ugh, oh, I can't move it from the ground. So anyway, one thing I wanted to mention, that's pretty much the specs. This did have, I found it on this bike, did have an electric fuel pump on this guy. So I didn't mention that later, so there you go. Electric fuel pump on this bike. So other than that, we're gonna get into going around this motorcycle. Pretty cool looking bike, tell you that much. And yeah, If you like what you see on the channel, go ahead, like and subscribe. We'd like to have you around. So let's spin this around, get you a good look at this bike. Stick around. Alright, let's get the wide view here. It's a very pretty bike. I always like the design of these. And this being Kawasaki's
Suzuki
first attempt at a cruiser, I figured it would be really fun to look at it before I took it apart. As I stated, I'll show you why I'm not sure what year this is. So I kind of assumed, where is that sticker? You can usually tell the bike's year and model. Oh, we're down here. Okay, down here on Suzuki. I'll show you right here. Your model, you got the VS700 GL, made in Japan. Sometimes that's significant. Some of these bikes were made in other places, but manufactured in 3 of 85. That's right here. So I would assume, being that early in 85, this would be an 85 model. So I was calling this an 85. Now, look on other stickers, maybe you can get some more information. Down here, please disregard the junk. This 1986 Suzuki, what does that say? VL0700. So basically Suzuki VL700 conforms to EPA. And then in here, I believe in here, I saw it earlier, there's Suzuki VS70. Oh, that's not focused. Yeah. So there's your engine family number. But these stickers, here is your CCs, $6.99. This was a tariff bike, so everything under 700 didn't have extra taxes being shipped into the US. So it had to be under 700. So there you have this $6.99. As far as the shadow, was $6.98. So anyway, so this is either an 85, 86. I'm going to assume they didn't change a whole lot. And also thinking this is probably not, it's probably mostly stock, except for whatever wiring was done or undone. And I think these risers here, I'm almost positive these risers are probably not factory. Maybe a different bar. I don't know. I'll have to get a picture of a real stock Intruder for you to look at. But all right, let's take this bike specifically. We definitely have some cracked tire issues, so that wouldn't be necessarily safe to run. You have spoked wheels and a single left-sided disc brake on the front, hydraulically operated. I'll show you that. But you have a single piston here, so that would be operated by, this is the clutch side, but here is the brake side, hydraulic, and this is your brake. That actually still works. Probably needs some cleaning. And then you have a hydraulic clutch on this side, and that actually still feels pretty good too. From what I'm thinking, this is probably not a factory riser. Let me know if it is. I'd be interested to know that. I'm assuming under here you probably have some indicator lights. And here is a single speedometer. I do not see a tach. This turn signal actuated by this. That could need some lubrication, but that would blink when this is left on. This does not feel like it's self-canceling, so you probably have to turn it back on your own. Here are your lights, high and low. Button seems free, and then this would be your horn. That seems like it would work also. This would be where your rear view mirrors screw down into. Engine start and stop. Wow, this is your start button. This would be run, so you could turn it off with that button. That seems a little loose, but probably still making connection. And yeah, back to the gauge here, 18,000, almost 19,000 miles. This light probably lights up when your kickstand's left down. So that may not cut off the engine, as some bikes. You put your kickstand down, the engine cuts out if you're in gear. Okay, so while we're on the top here, we'll look at our carburetor situation. As with the VX800 that I have, as you can, this is a very skinny bike. I was gonna say as you can see, but I don't like that. So, very slender engine design. Doesn't protrude that far out from the frame. So what they did was, they have a front airbox and a rear airbox. So, there should be probably a hole. Here you go. Air goes in there, and I don't know where the air intake, probably down below. Probably in there somewhere, which we're not going to dig into. So air comes in here and here, down here. Separate carburetors, so air's fed through this tube, also through this tube into your carburetor for the back cylinder, which is cylinder 1. Front carburetor into cylinder 2. We're not going to go into all this confusing mess at the moment. Maybe when we take it all apart. Your ignition switch, where you put your key in, is right here. This one's obviously been tried, ruined, by the way. Okay, while we're here, ignition coil's right here. And I don't know what all's missing. Obviously, seat, tank, rear fender. This would have had a stepped seat, I believe. So you'd have your driver's seat, and then it would probably jump up, and then probably have a backrest on it. Rear shocks, I don't see adjustments. And final drive is a shaft drive. And that is on the left side, as most bikes are. Down here you have your filler plug for your rear fluid, rear diff fluid. Down here is your drain plug. Here, there's your CDI. And this is probably, that's a relay of some sort, I would assume. Alright, down to, there is a battery, your positive battery terminal, which, as I've seen here, here's your starter relay switch. That looks pretty rusty. Who knows if that works, but here is your negative battery cable. Your battery runs down here underneath the bike. So these cables would be probably fished in there, and the positive obviously on the other side. But I've never seen this on a bike before, where your battery actually sits in below the bike. And then it looks like we have a regulator rectifier mounted under the shaft drive right there. Alright, so we have our ignition, there's your starter. So your battery powers the starter. Your battery power runs into the starter solenoid, and then when you turn your key, which will be here, and you give power from the engine start-stop button up on the right handlebar, and then you hit your starter button, that would connect power from here, let's see, from here to here, which would send probably through this wire, I guess, to your starter, which then cranks your engine. And that's doing that all while these are sending pulses to your spark plugs, which are right here. Let's see, you got one spark plug here, and I'm guessing the other one is over here for the front. Now, I'm going to compare this to the Shadow, because this bike came out about 2 years after the Honda Shadow. Honda Shadow started out as a 750, then it went to the 700 because of the tariffs, and then this came out. So a lot of the design here probably came from the couple years of the Shadow, and Kawasaki
Suzuki
decided they needed to have a bike to compete with the Shadow. So Shadow was probably doing pretty good. Let me check my notes here for a second. This is a 55-degree V-twin. So I guess this degree right here is 55, whereas the Shadow's was 45. There you go. I don't know what significance that has for you, but that's probably true. Here's your choke down here. Typical cruiser fashion. Shadow has all their stuff up here. Choke is on the handlebar, and the ignition is up here too. But they decided to put it down here. Go Kawasaki.
Suzuki!
As I said before, 699 cc's for the engine. One header coming out this side. I do not have mufflers. Other header runs off the front here, and if you know the Shadow, these pipes are kind of in the way. On this side of the engine, there's one that runs this way right here where it burns your leg if you have shorts on. So don't ride with shorts on. Alright, I'm going to try to stop talking about the Honda. Okay, so we talked about the battery. For changing your oil, here is your fill plug. Here is your window to check your oil. You want to check that sitting up on level ground and sitting up like that. And we do have oil in this bike. Now, no center stand, unfortunately, for every bike. So you're gonna have to do that manually. Can't have it leaning over. Looking at a rear drum brake, manually operated by this arm to this rod into this gear and into your pedal. Not sure. Yep, that still works. So you can see how that operates, and all that does is pulls the pads inside. The pads will expand in there to the outer rim, and that will slow your bike down. Very simple, very effective use of technology there. But I think, is there anything else? I think I mentioned we're liquid cooled. This is your horn. Right here, I believe, is to lock your steering if you don't want somebody to ride off with your motorcycle. Because obviously, from looking at this, you could probably start this with a screwdriver now. But this little key would lock it to one side or the other. Yeah, I don't see it. It's probably in here somewhere. Anyway. What else can we talk about? I think that about covers it. This lovely 700 parts bike, Vulcan 85 or 86. I'm gonna guess it's an 86. Or maybe it was a leftover 85 that they rebranded. But anyway, I'm gonna say it's probably pretty much the same bike, because it did run until 06. So you're looking at a motorcycle that remained relatively unchanged for what's that, 86, 96, 06, 30 years, relatively unchanged. Now I'm sure they went back to 750 after the tariffs in 87, 88, something like that. So you're probably getting a little bit more power, not much, but it's just a cool looking engine. And I might try to crank this over, see if it starts. If you guys want that, let me know in the comments. I can see if I can get it at least cranking. I doubt once I take these carburetors off I'm gonna really want to put it back together. So I may not get it running, but this is the full look. Maybe I should not part it out and build a bobber, who knows. I like to keep my stuff stock, but this is a cool looking motorcycle. Be a nice pairing for my 91 VX 800. Same engine, by the way. Just a little bit bored out. Got a little more power in the VX 800 naked sport bike. Give you one more look. And while you're here, if you like and subscribe, if you like what you see. I appreciate your time. Come back for more videos on this and more videos on all the bikes. And we'll catch you on the next one. Have a great day.